From partying till sunrise to purpose-building businesses, today's guest rewired his life.
It wasn't until a bit later where I realized, wow, this is very empty and there's nothing to it. And even though I kind of had everything I wanted, it still all felt like super empty.
Zack Schubert went from non-profit work in South America to building multiple seven-figure companies without being chained to his desk.
It wasn't really my plan to get into business. My idea was always just to kind of make money on the side to support myself, to be able to do anything that I wanted to.
Through faith, discipline, and radical focus, he overcame addiction, built systems that drive real revenue, and today helps other founders do the same.
Had no idea that when I was just thinking about making some money online and doing a side hustle that it would become what it is today. But yeah, it was definitely faith, a lot of different things like that was able to shape it to the point where it is today.
Join us in today's episode as we explore the research process that makes lead gen easy.
It's kind of like a lead generation process to see which businesses that we enjoy scaling, which ones we work with well, and which ones we're able to scale well.
Sales frameworks that you can measure, repeat, and delegate, and when to partner on other businesses or do it alone.
Go get a partner that can do the stuff that you don't want to do. If you're not good at sales and marketing, go find someone that's good at that and you just do fulfillment. For me, it's no brainer.
Plus, stick around to the end for the story that changed how Zack thinks about work, legacy, and time.
The money's great. It makes life easier where you don't have to worry about bills, all that kind of stuff. You have more freedom. You can design your life how you want it to be, but you should design your life around not working more.
So if you're a business owner looking to scale, this is an episode you don't want to miss.
There's nothing inherently wrong with pursuing money, pursuing larger businesses. I don't see money as evil. I don't see business as evil. For me, they're tools to be able to fulfill the purpose that I have.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying the videos, why not consider subscribing? We drop bi-weekly content that will help you improve your business right here on the channel. Zack, it is an absolute pleasure having you join me on the podcast today. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Of course, Jordan. Happy to be here.
Perfect. So I want to jump straight into it and talk about your background. I feel like I've watched a lot of your content over the past few years, and you talk through, your story of partying, battling with addiction, depression, and really how you turned your life around with faith and then business. Can you just talk through that story?
Yeah, I mean, before business, I was actually in the nonprofit world. I guess that's probably what shapes a lot of how I do things, the way that I kind of see the world, and even like decisions and stuff that I make. So I had as you kind of mentioned, kind of a rebellious youth, and then slowly saw the light, and yeah, faith was one of the big things that brought me into that, the main thing really. And then finding that purpose and seeing what it was that God wanted for my life. And I was doing kind of nonprofit work in South America for a really, really long time. And it was really it wasn't really my plan to get into business. My idea was always just to kind of make money on the side to support myself, to be able to do anything that I wanted to. So I was like, hey, well, let me just do some freelancing and make some money. This big epidemic in the world, not sure if you heard about it, but this big epidemic in the world happened. And then I had to kind of be shipped back to the US because I was living in South America at the time. And where I wanted to live, it was shut down for like 2 years. It was insane. I had to I left my dog there, left all my stuff, everything. And to this day, still haven't got most of it back, including the dog. During that time of everyone kind of just being in their house and stuff, I was like, well, might as well just keep working on this. And met a good friend that became kind of a mentor of mine in the business world. He kind of just helped me see and open my mind a little bit more to kind of what was possible. He's like, yeah, you can do that and just earn enough for yourself, or you can start a business, earn kind of like unlimited money, and then be able to do what you wanted to do with that, start your own nonprofit, all this different kind of stuff. And so then from there, that became my mission. My mission became working with businesses, helping businesses, not only being able to impact them, but then using kind of like the finances and what I was able to earn from that side to impact other charities and what they were doing. And then eventually in the process now of working on kind of starting my own mission. So it was never really my intention to necessarily like get into business and like, hey, I just want to be an entrepreneur. For me, it was always a means to the end. And even today, it's still that. I mean, God's blessed it immensely, and it more than I could ever imagine. Had no idea that when I was just thinking about kind of making some money online and doing a side hustle that it would become what it is today. So incredibly blessed for that, but it's great to be able to see what's possible when, you grow up and start taking life seriously. So, but yeah, it was definitely faith, a lot of different things like that that was able to shape it to the point where it is today.
Super interesting. And when you came across faith, was that for the first time, or was that perhaps a reversion to something from childhood?
No, I actually grew up going to the church, grew up in a Christian family and stuff. It was just, it was never mine or never my own relationship or never something that I believed until I was about 17 or so. I always just kind of like, it was just kind of like habit, it was just like the family's tradition. It was just like what you did. You went to church every Sunday. And then eventually, once I started, seeing more things and being more privy to things in the world, then I was like, oh, well, let me experiment with all this kind of stuff. I've never seen any of it, didn't really have any family that had issues with like drugs or alcohol or anything like that. So didn't have any experience to even know that it was like, oh, this is bad. This will ruin your life. This is not a good thing. And so then it was like, I'm an all or nothing kind of person, and I have a very addictive personality, slightly because of like ADHD, but also just who I am. It's all or nothing. So when I first started, it was like straight down the rabbit hole as far as I could possibly go, trying every possible thing. Um, there was even like times in my life where there was one time specifically where I remember just 3 months all every single night, like partying from like 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. every day, sleeping during the day, wake up, go out, party from 1 to 7, go to sleep for 3 months straight. And so, like, I went deep, deep into that hole. It wasn't until a bit later where I realized, well, like, wow, this is very empty and there's nothing to it. And even though I kind of had like everything I wanted. Like I had like, the popularity, the friends, the all that kind of stuff. It still all felt like super empty. Sure, maybe I wasn't like super wealthy or anything like that, but I had everything that this earth could kind of offer to me. I didn't have to worry about money during that time. Like everything was just perfectly fine, but I still felt like an emptiness. And I remember waking up one morning and just kind of like sitting up and just like sobbing uncontrollably. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? I don't even understand why I'm crying. Like, and then I just, like I said, remember feeling that like deep emptiness inside of me. It's like, yeah, you have all this stuff, but like, what's the point? Where is it taking you? Where you're like, you die tomorrow and you leave no impact on the world. You've helped nobody. You're not, everything that you've worked for, all this fun that you're having is just going to stay here. And then that eventually even kind of like that like belief or that feeling eventually kind of pulled into the business world as well, because probably last year or 2 years ago, I had a similar feeling of like, okay, all this business, all this money that I'm earning, all this stuff is also emptiness and vanity, and there needs to be like a bigger purpose to what's going on. So I mean, long story short, no, there wasn't really like, it wasn't a new thing. It was something that I had kind of grown up with, but it was never my own thing until I really realized like how like empty all that other stuff was. And what I really wanted to fill me was that relationship with God and relationship with people, and the purpose that he had for me that I was kind of able to accomplish and wasting when I was doing those shenanigans.
For sure. And now with purpose, you mentioned, before. Could you just talk to the past kind of year or so, how that developed, and what currently you're working on in business today?
Yeah, I feel like I'm much clearer on my purpose now. Like I said, I'm an all or nothing guy, so even when I kind of started into the business world, like I had myself pretty focused on what I wanted, and then about a year, my businesses started exploding, and so then, you know, naturally I went all in on those and got very distracted on like the numbers, scaling, need my business to be bigger, need more clients, need more revenue, need better service, need better all this kind of stuff. And my got distracted from my original mission, which I had kind of mentioned to you, which was that the business was always just a means to the end. And it was, for a good amount of time, probably about a year and a half, it was it. That's all I was kind of living for. That's all I was waking up, and it's all that I did every single day. And then I got married, and then it was heavily because my wife helped me kind of realize like, hey, all that stuff is great, but there's more to it. Like you and I, we need to build a relationship, we need to build a family, a future, and then remember why you did all this stuff. It's like it's not just for your own gain and stuff. There's more to it. And so it was once again kind of another difficult road, but once again getting to that point where I realized like, my businesses are meant to serve what I want to do. So now it looks like, helping other people that we know and kind of trust in the charities that they have, or the nonprofits that they have, or the missions that they have. But then also in kind of like the planning process of going back into the planning process of starting our own, which I had kind of lost sight of for a while.
Interesting. So I think this viewpoint is very different to a lot of people in the online space, but I think a lot of people would kind of empathize with it. So what would you say to someone that's maybe built a great business? They've got the earthly possessions, they've got watches, cars, holidays, whatever, but they feel inside that something is kind of missing. They don't know how to fix that, but they just feel like there's a gap. What would you say to someone like that?
I mean, it really depends on the person, because I don't think there's necessarily a right answer for everyone. Because every man has to search for, and woman has to search for what their purpose is on earth. The problem with me is I knew what mine was and I was distracted from it and kind of ignoring it, right? So it's really down to kind of discovering what that is for every single one of us, and then just pursuing it wholeheartedly, right? And a lot of the times, there's nothing inherently wrong with, pursuing, all the stuff, pursuing money, pursuing larger businesses. There's nothing wrong with those types of things. I don't see money as evil. I don't see business as evil. That's not anything that I'm saying by any means. Obviously, I have four businesses myself, so I'd be a hypocrite to say that. I make good money as well, so I'd be a hypocrite to say that. But for me, they're just tools. They're tools to be able to fulfill the purpose that I have. So, I mean, what I would say to someone what was pursuing that is, when you're pursuing it, pursue it for something else, right? Don't just pursue it because you just want it. Because I promise you, that in the end it'll just be vanity, right? Like all this money you've earned, all these businesses that you've grown, when you die, sure, you could leave them to your kids, maybe, if you have them, if you've built good relationships and if you built that legacy with them, that's great. That could be your purpose. But if that's all you've done is just, to your deathbed, and you're a billionaire and you have all this stuff and all this money, and it's like, if that's all you got, then that's going to be kind of the vanity behind it and the emptiness behind it. I was just telling this story at an event that I was speaking at this weekend, but I got in this taxi about a month ago, and there was this super chatty guy who picked me up, and he was just like talking to me about his whole life and yada yada. He's like, "Hey, what do you do?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm a business owner." He's like, "Oh, no way, me too." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Why are you driving Uber right now?" He's like, "Oh, it's my doctor. He told me that I needed to get out of the house a little bit more, and I'm kind of retired now, so it's just kind of my way to get around and do something." I'm like, and I was like curious, so I just started digging. And as we were like passing different properties and stuff, he's like, "Oh yeah, I have a flat in that building. I have a flat in that building. I own one over there too." I was like, "Oh, I was like, what did you do to, I'm curious." I was like, "What'd you do to make all your money?" He's like, "Oh, I had like little convenience stores, like little kiosks, right, where you sell fruit and veg and then all the stuff inside of the stores." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And he's like, "Yeah, me and my wife, we moved here from Manchester." And my brother had convinced us to come because he was like, "Hey, it's a chiller city. It's a better lifestyle. There's good opportunities for business, etc. You should come up and move up here." So me and my wife, we moved up here. Um, he was like, "We're different than my brother, so we decided to risk some of our finances. We bought this convenience store, and then he's like, and we worked every single day for 40 years for 12 hours a day." He's like, and that was our goal. He's like, our goal was to just stack up a bunch of properties. Our goal was to work every single day, and then be able to retire early when we were like 45 or 50. And he's like, so we worked our butts off every single day, and we got to accomplish absolutely that. And he's like, I showed my brother up. Like, my brother's jealous of all the stuff that I have, of all the properties, of all the success, and we've been able to retire. Then we sold those stores off. And I'm like, "Oh, that's great." And like, and now you're just able to retire with your wife and everything's good. And he's like, yeah, but unfortunately my wife died 3 years after we retired. And I just like sat there and one getting goosebumps again. And I was like, and I was just like, oh, that's like, I'm really sorry for your loss. He's like, yeah, but it's okay because we still accomplished what we wanted to get. And, my brother's still jealous of all the stuff that we have. And he just like goes on and on and on about like how it was the best decision that he could ever make. And like, I was just sitting in the back seat thinking like, over my dead body. Like, would I ever want that to happen to me? Like, that sounds absolutely horrible. Like, sure, you accomplished all these great things. You have a portfolio of 50 plus properties and you're retired by the age of 45, but you lost all the time with your wife. You don't have any kids because you didn't have time for the to, give, raise children. And now you absolutely have nothing and you're driving Uber to be able to get out of the house because you have nothing else to do. And like, I think about that story all the time of like, yeah, you can spend your life with like the Hormozy lifestyle of like, I'm just going to work my butt off every single day for what? You know what I mean? And so that's what I always challenge people to think is like, what is your purpose behind everything? Like, you need to have goals, you need to have a mission towards what you're working towards. And it can't just be like, I want my business to hit 100, then 200, then 300, then 400, then 500 revenue. Because I can tell you, I've hit those numbers and it's just empty. You get there, it's like, oh, sick, it's another number on the screen. And then you realize what you're actually losing out on, which is what life is about. It's about relationships. It's about people. It's about building legacy. It's whatever it is that your values and your mission are. That's what it's about. The money's great. It makes life, you know, easier where you don't have to worry about money. You don't have to worry about bills, all that kind of stuff. You can kind of, you have more freedom. You can design your life how you want it to be. But you should design your life around not working more. Whereas a lot of people, they get in that hamster wheel of like, work all the time, work all the time. Okay, my business is bigger now. Okay, I need to work harder, need to work harder, need to work harder. And then it's like now you just have a really expensive hobby, right? Like you're just a slave to your business when you left the 9 to 5 not to be a slave. And so that's kind of one of the things that I always challenge people to think about.
Okay. So you've mentioned a few times now, both in terms of business development, but also that kind of spiritual journey about having mentors along the way. I know personally that you're close with Luke Belmar and Eddie Malouf, who's obviously huge in the space. How important have these relationships been for you, and how do you go about kind of building them?
I mean, there's no, so, I mean, Luke, I met him when he was 15. I met him in Argentina before he had even moved to the US. So that was a kind of a unique case, I'd say. Eddie, we're business partners on one of my 4 businesses. And that one was just because he could see who I was and what I was doing. So I think one of the easiest answers is like, you attract the level of people at the level you are yourself, and it doesn't even need to be financial level. It just needs to be like quality of human level. So like, the better man you are, the more mature you are, the more you seem genuine, the more you're going to attract people like that, right? And that's kind of the I guess the trick to the type of people I know and the network that I have is you're always genuinely trying to help people, always genuinely trying to give back without asking for anything in return, not trying to sell myself or make myself seem like I'm bigger than I am, or better than I am. Like, it's all about like just intentionally cultivating genuine relationships with people rather than just like, let me see what I can get out of this guy. If I know this guy, what can I get out of him? Right. And the more like people see that, the more genuine, a relationship with them is going to be. Like, one of my closest mentors and friends right now is Cody Jefferson. And it all started just like with genuine interactions of like, yeah, this is what I'm struggling with, this is what I'm struggling with. And then now we have a chat every single week talking about our business, talking about our life, talking about our marriages, etc. And he's helped me significantly in pretty much everything. But all that's come from like my network and people that I know. And there's not really a good explanation or a cheat code for it. It's just hard work to have a good network. It's just being genuine and it's just being able to provide value. being humble, and not making it seem like you don't want anything from them. Like, obviously you don't. Like, you want that to be genuine, but it can't seem like you're trying to get something out of them, because people can see when you're just in it for the opportunities or just in it to get something from them. And, people can see that a mile away. I can sense that a mile away when people are trying to do it for their own privilege or their own gain. Like, people in business are just desperate for genuine relationships where it's not, something to try and get out of them. So if you're able to be that person and show that you can provide value, then that's kind of the the only thing that can come out of it is those types of relationships.
Okay, so I now want to shift gears and talk about the businesses. So when you're talking about the freelancing and how that kind of developed, was that Cara? And can you just talk to how that came about?
Yeah, it was actually kind of interesting because, like, I had no idea about digital. Like I said, I lived in South America. I barely had good internet connection. Like, I knew nothing about business, nothing. Like, 17 years old, I moved to South America, and I'm 31. So when I was in high school, like, TikTok didn't exist. Like, Instagram was just starting. I hated social media, so didn't know anything about it. Like, it was just everything was kind of brand new. And so, like, my thought was like, well, maybe I can make some money online. There has to be people that are making money online. Like, right? There's the internet, right? So then I was like, how to do digital marketing. And, like, the first thing that came up was like a Neil Patel article on, like, SEO is marketing. And I'm like, sick. That's what I'm going to learn how to do. And that's kind of how it started. And I started, like, the more drop servicing model, because I knew that I never wanted to talk to clients or actually do the fulfillment. Like, I was like, this isn't for me. This isn't what I want to do. I just want to work with the experts and work with the people that know how to do it, because I'm not going to have enough time to deal with this. Like, I can only work mornings, and in the afternoon I'm supposed to be working in this nonprofit. Like, I can't, right? And I just have no interest in it. And then it was also like, well, if I pay someone else to do this, then I don't actually really have to learn it and really become an expert in it. So that's kind of how I started. I just went on Upwork and I was like, who knows how to do SEO? They're like, oh, I do. Oh, great. Okay, how much do you charge a month for to work with your company? Oh, I'll charge you like 1,000 a month to do it. I was like, okay, sick. And then I'd go on the other side of Upwork and I'd be like, I'm doing SEO services for 2,000 a month, and then try and get people in for double the price, and then send them off to that guy and he'd manage them. I was literally just kind of like drop servicing, and then it eventually just, I partnered with my sister who ran the whole thing eventually, and then we just scaled it. And we did about, like, in the first year and a half, we did a million in profit of just starting it.
Wow, that is very rare in the space. So would you say that the kind of speed of success is down to those two reasons? So one, not getting bogged down in the service delivery, and two, having that partner with your sister who can kind of take care of the back end.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think what people do is, and I still see this today, which I think it's the silliest thing, is people are just like, oh, I'm going to do it all myself. I'm just going to figure it all out myself, right? I'll just eventually hire people, yada yada. Whereas I'd rather have a small piece of a larger pie rather than a big piece of a smaller pie. I still tell people this today, one, like, go get a partner that can do the stuff that you don't want to do and that they're good at it, right? Like, if you don't want to do fulfillment, why wouldn't you find someone that wants to do fulfillment, and then instead of trying to figure it out yourself? Like, it seems like a waste of time. Like, if you're not good at sales and marketing, go find someone that's good at that and you just do fulfillment. Like, for me, it's like, it's no brainer, because then it allowed me to spend, like, literally obsess over sales and marketing for a year and a half. And, like, I told my sister, I was like, hey, listen, like, if you ever tell me to slow down sales and marketing, like, this isn't going to work. So if you just need to accept every client that I bring, no matter what, whatever happens. So then I would just, like, sign, close, sign, close, sign, close, you know what I mean? And just pass them back to her. And then, so that was my obsession for a year and a half. And that's what allowed us to get to that point. Because I had to focus on that, and I didn't care about, like, hiring, didn't care about whether or not the service was good enough. Like, obviously I cared about those things, but, like, that wasn't my job. I didn't have to do that. So it allowed me to have this, like, obsession on just, like, lead gen and sales, lead gen and sales, lead gen and sales, over and over and over again. And every business that I start, I never start it by myself. I always start it with partners, whether equity partners or in some other capacity, because I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm not good at, and and more importantly, I know what I like to do and I know what I don't like to do. And I'm just not going to do the things that I don't want to do. It doesn't make sense to me. Why? Because I've become an entrepreneur to do the things that I enjoy, to be able to manage and design my own life how I want it to be. So why would I get myself in a situation where I was doing a job that I didn't want to do again? Sure, it's on my own terms, sure, it's for more money, but there's only so much money in the world that I'd work for do something that I didn't want to do, right? So that's just kind of my philosophy behind things, and it baffles me every time someone's like, "Oh, I'm just going to try and figure it out myself." It's like, "Well, why would you do that if you could there's hundreds of people that are opposites of you that could easily do that for you and enjoy it, and then you wouldn't have to think about it and wouldn't have to worry about it." And I liked giving them percentages because then they have skin in the game and they're actually like dedicated to it. Where it's different if you're just like, "Hey, I'll pay you a salary to do this." It's like, well, they're still going home to their wife and kids and they're still living their life and they're only going to do so much to push your dream forward. If it's their own also, they'll put more into the game. They'll have the skin in the game.
Okay. And on the sales and lead gen side, what were you doing that was so successful in the first couple of years to enable that growth?
Yeah, it doesn't really have the same effect anymore. We did a lot of stuff on Upwork, like doing some outreach on Upwork, and then a lot of cold DMs as well. And then eventually, I'd say probably about halfway through that, we cracked paid ads, and that's when that started working. But we did DM ads, which don't work. Cold DMs, DM ads don't quite work the same as they used to. DM ads are great for testing offers, but book a call funnels are what are the best for agencies right now. But in that time, in those times, it was at a just kind of a different time in the market. So that's how it worked for us. But just wanted to preface that it's not necessarily how it works now.
So there's a question I have on lead gen, and let's say, hypothetically, you've got Facebook working, you've kind of scaled that up. What are your views on diversifying versus kind of sticking with one lead channel?
It depends on your goal. So like if your goal is like I'm just scaling this to be my cash cow and I want it to be my only business, or you're like or like how depending on how big you want the business to be, it depends on that as well, or if you're looking to exit it. But I generally tell people that like one channel you can scale pretty hard before you have to switch to another channel. I mean, obviously this differs for like e-commerce, but as far as like for agency goes, or high ticket lead generation, like you can scale Facebook ads to, a million a month in ad spend, right? It's very possible. Hundreds of businesses do it every single month, right? We have tons of clients that are at that level before you ever need to diversify. So if you're thinking like, oh, this channel's dead, it's no longer working for me. It's not the channel, it's your offer, it's how you're running it, right? So you can scale pretty deep with one channel. Obviously, if you're looking for like some kind of exit, or you're looking to kind of diversify where you're getting your leads from, then certainly work on some other channels. But you can get your business to like if you're an agency, you can get your agency to like 200, 300K a month before you ever need to even worry or think about that.
Okay. So it's really just kind of, reasons for diversification will be diversifying risk and if you're looking to exit the business.
Yeah, and to be fair, like Meta's still the king for paid ads, so Meta's not really going anywhere. I mean, sure, you don't necessarily own your traffic source, so maybe while you're doing that, work on some organic, work on building up your email list, that type of stuff. So there's some other sources that are a little bit more owned by you or whatever. Do some SEO. But as far as paid goes, like Meta's still king and you can still scale pretty deep there. Like especially for an agency, you can spend like 100 to 200 on Meta and still be fine.
Okay. So I want to double tap on this lead gen point because I know this is where you spend a lot of your time. You talked a little bit about the different funnel types, DM ads, book call funnels. Can you just talk through at a high level what the different options are and how you would kind of think through evaluating them?
Yeah, so DMs are pretty straightforward. You're just running an ad to for someone to send you a DM straight to your inbox. Those are good for testing offers. So like if you're not sure what's going to work for paid, because just because it worked for organic doesn't mean that it's going to work for paid, or just because it worked for referrals or cold email doesn't mean it's going to work for paid. You can do some testing on your offers through cold DMs, just kind of get the sentiment of the people that are kind of coming through. And then once you have that, yeah, it's good to build out a call funnel. So the framework that we use for our book of call funnels is it's just, the creative straight to a landing page. On the landing page, it has your offer, all that fun stuff. And then it has an application on there. That application, and this is for agencies, right? On that application, it'll qualify them. And then we generally do it based on revenue. You want the least amount of questions as possible on that questionnaire. So if you're only looking for 7-figure brands or businesses, then you disqualify them if they're below that. If they're disqualified, generally it's best to send them to some kind of downsell. You can have your setter take those downsell calls, or directly to, like, if you have like a course or something, send them directly to the course from that to actually purchase it, whatever it might be. Or if you have a software, sending them to that. If they're qualified, get them booked directly onto the closer's calendar. And that's kind of like our book a call funnel for agencies. And for a lot of B2B businesses, we don't generally recommend using VSLs, especially not for testing. They just don't seem to work as well. If you think about like the logic behind it, busy business owner doesn't have time to sit there and watch you talk 10 to 15 minutes on your strategies and how you do things. Plus, they don't care. They just want to see your results, right? So when we're building our landing pages, like, they're all about results, who we've worked with, what we did for them, how we got them those results, how it's changed their lives, etc. Because that's all the thing that they care about. And then they want to get on a call with you as quick as possible to see if it'll work for their business. Whereas for like info, or if you're selling like B2C, VSLs are great. They do a lot better. But yeah, we like, when our book a call funnel, we like to disqualify people and get them into book calls directly, rather than doing like lead forms or something like that. Because then we can optimize the ads and optimize the campaigns for qualified book calls, right? And so then we send that back to Meta immediately as like, this is a good lead because it was qualified and they booked a call. And then obviously later you can send back if they've actually closed and different things like that. But that's how we like to do book a call funnels. Alternatively, you can do the same thing with VSL funnels. And then of course there's webinars, works sometimes for agencies, but better for biz op things, or info products or different things like that. There's low ticket funnels. That's one that I like right now, where you sell something for low ticket on the front end. Like, for example, you have like an email agency, or if you're doing like tax relief for someone or something like that, you can sell them like, hey, this is a budgeting template that you can use in order to budget out how much tax dollars you owe and how to pay it and all that kind of stuff. Sell that for nothing on the front end. It could be literally $1 to $97, and then immediately once they purchase, it redirects them to, or upsells them to, a book a call. The leads are just more qualified, more expensive, of course, but the leads are just more qualified. Plus, they've already paid you money, so it's a lot easier to upsell them into something else. The other one that I like is lead magnet to book call. So similar, except it's just a free lead magnet. Less qualified because they didn't give you any money, but still works out pretty well. Let me think what else. There's the challenges, of course. Can't really do that with an agency necessarily, but you can do a few days challenges. Like, for example, if you have like a drop shipping offer, you can, the first day you can show how to find the product, the second day you can show how to set up the Shopify store, third day you can show how to set up your ads, fourth day you can show how there's already kind of sales and results kind of coming in, and then you immediately sell them on like, hey, I'll teach you how to do this too, and you can join my community, and it's 15K for 6 months or whatever the offer might be. But that's be an example of kind of like what a challenge could be. But there's a bunch of different kind of funnels and a bunch of different kind of things that we work with. It could be subscription communities that upsell into info products. There's a bunch of different kind of opportunities out there for that. But for agencies, the first one that we always recommend setting up is the just the straight up book a call funnel. It's the easiest one to start with, the easiest one to scale first, and then generally we recommend scaling into the other things.
So let's assume we've picked the book a call funnel. There's obviously a lot of different variables behind that. How do you think through, getting started and kind of figuring out which levers to pull there?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that people miss out on is like the legwork that goes into it ahead of time. So that's like really kind of trying to establish your audience and your offer. And a lot of people skip this part because it takes extra time and people just don't want to put in that time. So whenever we have a client come in, it's not like, "Oh, what's your offer? Great, let's start building out your funnel for you." We do a lot of like micro testing and research before we even get into that. So, for example, if we talk about like a debt relief offer that someone has like owes a bunch of money to a credit card company, and we're like, "Hey, let's help you with your debt, whatever." What we would do is we would look into that audience, even if we think we know how they think, what their pain points are, what they're struggling with, et cetera, we still want to do deep research into it. So that means looking at like private Facebook groups, looking at Reddit, et cetera, and like seeing like what people are saying, right? Seeing what they're saying about these different things, what they're going through, what's keeping them up at night, what their pain points are, what their struggles are, how it's affecting them and their family, et cetera. Like you want to see all those things, and you want to try and find like the commonalities of what people are saying, not just Joe Schmo said this thing and then Karen said this thing. It's like, what's the thing that everyone's saying over and over again? And then once you've found that, then you want to test like offering solutions and just be like, hey, I know that you guys say the thing that keeps you up at night is like losing your car over this debt that you have. What if I showed you, 5 quick steps of, how you could organize your finances and budget a little bit better so that you wouldn't have that risk of losing your car, right? And do like these micro tests of like shooting things and seeing what kind of comments people are putting through in your posts, see what how people are responding, if people are actually engaging, and then even like offering to hop on calls with people like, "Hey, Joe, do you mind if I hop on a call and just ask you a little bit about your situation and how it's affecting your life and I have nothing to sell you. I'm just kind of doing some research into the market and seeing how everything's going." And lots of people skip these vital steps. And then we even go further sometimes. Like we'll offer free lead magnets. Be like, "Hey, I have this quick guide. If anyone wants to download it, it really helped me relieve my debt and make sure that, I wasn't losing my car or whatever, like whatever these things that people are saying, and see what the response is to those types of free things." And so we'll do these micro tests and all this deep research before we ever even build a funnel, because we don't ever want to guess, even if it's the same offer as one that we've scaled before for a different company. We don't ever want to guess what people are feeling and what they're thinking and what they're saying at that time, because that's what's going to build the backbone of all of our copy, of all the offers that we're building out, right? Like if it's like a recurring issue over and over that people are worried about losing their car, like why wouldn't our ad say, "Worried about losing your car? We have this offer that helps you, yada yada yada." You know what I mean? And so we're actually like doing that research and doing those micro tests to see if the offer that we have is actually validated, in communities for free. For You can do it with emails, you can do it with like doing an email list, you can then run a test with a free lead magnet over Facebook ads. You can run DM ads to read the sentiment of the type of people that are coming in. And what happens is a lot of these times people will come into the funnel and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you read my mind." Like that is literally the difficulty. I have difficulty sleeping because of that same thing. Like, how did you know? And give me this offer because, you're reading my mind type thing. So that's a lot of the legwork that we do for people. And so I wouldn't even say 3 things. I would say if you get that one thing, like your offer is going to be bulletproof. It doesn't really, you could have DM ads, you could have low ticket funnel, you could do webinars, you could do challenges, you could do a book a call funnel, you could do a VSL. It doesn't matter because the vehicle doesn't matter. It's you're speaking to the right person, the right way, how they want to be spoken to, and the words that they are saying. And a lot of people skip this process because we're marketers, right? We think we know what's best. We think we know what they're thinking. We think we know the words that they're saying. We think we know what's keeping them up at night. We're like, oh my gosh, this is a genius offer. Or we'll funnel hack someone else and we'll be like, oh yeah, that's genius. Let's do that. Let's do that same exact thing that they're doing and let's just rebrand it to us. It's like, no, no, no. It doesn't work that way. You need to do the you need to do the legwork and the research into your own brand and into your own audience, and then build your offer around what their pain points are and what they're actually feeling. And that can take 2 to 4 weeks, and that's why people don't want to do it, because they want to make money now. They want to start everything now. They want to get going now, and it's just not quite how it works.
Okay, so am I correct in saying that it's kind of the research, which is the most important thing, that then informs the next layer, which is, the offer and the messaging, and then everything else below that is kind of, I don't want to say noise in the background, but almost a function of the first three variables.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're using their words, right? They're things that they're saying. And so, like, no joke, literally people come into the funnel like, how did you know? Like, how did you know that I was feeling that? Like you're literally speaking my language. Give me whatever you have to solve that, because I am able to see, you solving that problem that I knew that I had, but didn't have a way of vocalizing it or whatever. Um, and so you can have the worst designed land page. You can have the landing page. You know what I mean? You can have minimal case studies. You can have a not very good closer. It doesn't matter, because they're coming in pre-sold because you spoke their language. You can use a static image and just throw it on top of a screenshot. It doesn't have to be a well-designed ad creative with done in a studio with lighting and whatever. Like, a lot of our creatives are just ugly screenshots with text over them, because it's what we're saying to them that's like speaking to their soul.
So I was going to ask next what success looks like, and I guess there I was kind of looking for stats or metrics, but I guess what you're almost saying though is that not doesn't matter, but is less important than receiving messaging back from the market that clearly indicates that you're resonating with them.
Yeah, well, because stats is going to be different for everyone, right? Like, obviously you want to, there's industry CPMs, and like you want your click through rate to be over 1%, that type of thing. But if you're selling something that's, 25K, or your stats are going to be different than someone that's selling something for 1K. You know what I mean? So it varies based on like the product, what you're selling, etc. Like what ideal stats are. But yeah, I mean, and it really depends on like the unit economics of that exact business as well. So like if for one business, you know, a good goal is like a 1.5 ROAS. It's like, okay, great. That's what's successful for this one. But I've had businesses where we're just like cranking the ad spend. It's like a 5.8 ROAS. And then the founder comes back to us and they're like, whoa, whoa, we need to slow down. Like I'm losing money. I'm losing money. And I'm like, what? We're getting like, this is unheard. We're getting a 5.8 and we're spending 100K a day. What do you mean you're losing money? And it's just like, it really depends on like the unit economics of that exact business, um, and what their goals are and what they want to accomplish. And then once you've hit that, that's success, right? So for one business, like we have one business that we work with, we're like a 1.3 ROAS is enough. Where we have other businesses where like I need at least a 6 or this isn't profitable. I'm losing money. It's like, okay, so for this company, one thing is success, that for this company, it's not.
Okay, so let's say now you've got something working. What's the next steps? And I'm thinking here in terms of optimization and kind of scaling. What are you thinking here?
Well, if the current funnels, like if the current process is working, like obviously no need to fix something that's not broken, but creatives obviously are important. So you want to constantly be like feeding the beast with testing different creatives and stuff, different angles. Like for an agency, for example, if we want to dive into that, like say you work with like e-com brands and it's like, hey, we've scaled our general funnel to like 30K a month and it's just becoming less and less profitable. Okay, great. Let's break it off and test specific niches. So let's test supplement brands. Let's test this, and you can go different ways like that. Same thing with like an info product of sorts. So like for example, if you're doing debt relief, like sure, target everyone with debt, but then let's target single mothers. Let's target, uh, you know, working professionals, whatever it might be. And you can start doing things like that. Might be a little bit more expensive, obviously, because you're honing in a lot more on your targeting, but you're able to diversify a little bit where the funnels are going. And then that's where you also need to start working on different offers, different angles, right? So that offer would work, but need to move into some other offers, and then maybe even different vehicles, right? So if you've exhausted your book a call funnel, maybe try something that's low ticket on the front end. Maybe try some kind of like subscription continuity type offer or different things like that. So it really depends. Like I'm always kind of like the philosophy of one, don't fix something that's not broken, and two, make data driven decisions, not just like a feeling. So it's like, okay, if I try this, it'll scale even further. It's like, no, does the data say that or does it not say that? Um, so if things are working out, no reason to change it. But if you've hit kind of like what seems to be a ceiling, then you just need to kind of test other things and add them onto that rather than changing that, because if that's working, don't fix it if it's not broken. So like for Cara, for example, like we've just been advertising SEO to general ecom forever, and then we like, okay, well, we can't get past like this 30K a month spend. What do we do? Okay, let's test different niches. Let's test supplement brands. Let's test this. Let's test that. And then we're like, okay, we've tested all of these. Now those are up and running, and we can't get past this certain benchmark. What do we do? It's like, okay, well, what different offers can we start driving? All right, well, let's drive like a, you don't pay type offer. Let's drive maybe to different types of e-com owners, lower level business owners, higher level business owners. Let's test doing an offer for AI SEO. Oh, this is the one. This is the next one we can scale. So now we have one that's 30, and then we're adding on another one that's 30, and then we're adding on, you know what I mean? So you're slowly scaling the different types of offers, and realizing kind of when their ceiling is, if they have one. If they don't, perfect, keep scaling it. No reason to fix something that's not broken. It's data decisions. Like don't fix something that's not broken, and don't make decisions on something if the data doesn't show it, right? And naturally, as you scale, things will get more expensive, but as long as you're inside like your unit economics, then that's fine. Like especially for agencies, like we have such a huge benefit because like, an LTV of an agency can be like 80 to 150 or whatever, right? So it's like as long as I'm under that, I'm making money. Obviously, accounting for, the cost of fulfillment and all that kind of stuff. So say that like your worst case scenario, you're at like 50%. It's like, okay, well, my LTV is 80. So that means I make 40K off of each client. Okay, so I can spend up to 30K to get a client. Yeah, you could technically if you want to scale to the moon. You know what I mean? So it really depends on those types of things, as well as like following that data and the numbers.
Okay, so my final question here is, what would you say to someone that is, thinking Facebook ads won't work for my business? I'm a unicorn, I'm special, my business is different. This isn't going to work for me.
No, it's your offer that doesn't work on Facebook. So like I said, like we've had plenty of offers that have come in that work incredibly well organically. They crush it in Reels, they crush it on TikTok. um, and then you take it to LinkedIn and it's trash. It doesn't work. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with ad platforms. Each platform has its own way of working, and it's just because your offer doesn't work. And genuinely, it's generally because they haven't put the research into their actual audience, right? So it's because that specific strategy or that angle worked on that platform or didn't work on that platform, and they don't genuinely notice their audience. Because if you have a good offer and you truly understand your audience, what you're selling can work anywhere. Otherwise it's not good. It's how you've set it up, how you've positioned it, how you're trying to call out that specific ICP, whatever it might be. Like it's just how you've positioned it. Like if I'm going on TikTok to look for like fractional CFOs or whatever, like it just needs to be positioned in the way correctly on the actual platform that it's on, speaking to them the way that people on that platform would speak.
Okay. Switching topics slightly now then. I want to talk about sales. I know your kind of background prior to Cara was completely unrelated. How did you go about, you've got this lead flow coming in. How do you go about learning how to sell, and what are you doing in those initial days?
How did I learn to close them? That's a great question. I think I was just since I like came from the nonprofit world, I was used to um, especially in like on like the Christian nonprofits that I was working in, like a lot of the stuff that we do would be evangelism, which would be like preaching to people and telling them about the gospel and telling them about God and different things like that. So I think that was something that had a significant impact because it was once again, I mean, for lack of a better way of saying it, but it was selling something to people that probably didn't want to buy it. You know what I mean? It was like colder. You couldn't get colder. It's like going up into a plaza and someone and saying like, "You need Jesus," and they're like, "I don't need Jesus." You know what I mean? So like, it couldn't be a colder audience, and it couldn't be a harder sell. You know what I mean? They need to change their entire life type thing. So I think a lot of that experience helped me, and then on the other side of things, it was also just kind of like I was motivated and I wanted it to happen. I think that's what a lot of people don't have is they don't actually want it, because if you actually wanted it, like you'd grind your face off. And I knew that I actually wanted it, right? Like I knew it's where I wanted to go. I felt the purpose behind it. It wasn't just to make money. It wasn't just to, have a happy life and be happy. Like I had purpose behind it, which drove me even further than it would drive someone that just wanted to get rich or just wanted to buy their Lambo or whatever. Like I will always outwork that type of person or do a better job than that type of person because there's more purpose to what I do because I have it because that purpose actually drives me rather than just the vanity or whatever it might be. So I think it was a combination of the two things of like I was just hungry and I wanted it. And then I did have, some experience to talking to people that didn't want to talk to me, that spat in my face, that threw things at me, that you know what I mean? It was like I sold the hardest thing on the planet and was still successful. So like selling people something on how to make money was a lot easier.
Yeah, so actually, as I was kind of listening to you there, I realized that's probably the wrong question, right? If you've got the ability, if you've got the ability to go up to someone and pitch them when they're going about their day, turning to Christ, it's probably a lot easier just to tell them, here's how you can make more money, right?
100%. Yeah.
In terms of the specifics, though, were there any kind of tips or strategies that you were using that helped you see success?
I mean, not necessarily maybe back then, but now I've learned more. Just like anything, you have to have a good framework, just like for any part of your business. You just have to have a strategy and you have to stick to it. Like, don't wing things, have a reason for why you do things. Like, every time I go into a business, whether it's consulting or a business that we're doing lead generation for, or being a growth partner for, or whatever, they just need to have like a framework and a system. And if they're just kind of winging it, like, let's get on these calls and just try and close these people. And that doesn't always mean like a script either because sometimes there's not scripts for things, right? But it's more about like having a system, like to have everything mapped out, just like you do for your fulfillment, just like you do for your lead generation. You know how your funnel has a system. It goes from creative to landing page to application to qualified to book call. If not, like just as that, there's a system for that and a way of doing things for that. When something doesn't work, you need to do this. When this doesn't work, you need to change this. When the landing page doesn't work, change the header. Like just as there's systems for lead generation, there needs to be the same exact frameworks for sales. So it's just about setting up a framework for yourself that works for you, using other people's frameworks until you find that, but just having one. Like don't just go in blindly. Like I said, you can grind your face off if you're hungry enough and make it work. But if you want results to be consistent and if you want to be able to test things and see why certain tweaks work and don't work, then you need to have everything mapped out and you need to be able to say, okay, I tweaked this and this didn't work, and the show up rate decreased by 20% because I changed this exact thing, rather than like, oh, my show up rate failed this week. Well, why? I don't quite know. Let's test this and see why it didn't and see if it improves it. It's like, no, no, no. You need to have everything mapped out. You need to have a system. You need to have SOPs. You need to have a framework for it so that you know when you make a certain tweak and something goes down, it's because it's that tweak you made. So I'd say that's the biggest thing that a lot of people miss is that they just kind of wing things and they're just like, oh, I just need to be good at objection handling, and I just need to, make sure the prospect talks more than me and ask them good questions, and make sure that I seem like an expert to them, or that I'm providing value or whatever. It's like that stuff can help for sure, but if you don't have a framework, you don't know why things are working and why they're not working. Um, so I'd say that's one of the bigger things inside of sales is just have a system, stick to it, and if it doesn't work, adjust it. And then you'll see whether that works better or not, and then you can make decisions once again based on data rather than sentiment, because then you're just like, well, why didn't that lead close? It's like, well, I don't know, it seemed like he was going to close, I don't know why he didn't close. Okay, well, why did we close lower this month? Well, I don't know, the leads just kind of sucked this month. It's like, no, you need to know exactly what were the things that made numbers go down or up, and how to replicate or avoid them in the future.
Right. So you're kind of talking there about building the system, and I'm assuming here you mean you as the founder should be building that first.
I mean, it can be, once again, like if you're not the person that's good at sales, find someone that is. If you're good at sales, yeah, build your own framework. Like when I go into any of my businesses, I'm building my sales framework because I have one, because I've created it and I've replicated it across other businesses and I've proven that it works. If you don't have that, find someone that does. Look on YouTube, see what frameworks you can find there. You know what I mean? Test different things. Um, there's just so much information out there nowadays that you don't really have to guess and try and figure it out yourself. And if you know that like sales isn't your thing and you're not going to be doing sales, find someone that's good at sales, because you're going to want them to build out the framework. You're not going to want them to use your framework when you don't even know how to use sales, right? I wouldn't build like fulfillment SOPs and then bring in a COO and be like, do this. You know what I mean? Because they're going to be like, ah, it's not how I do things. Actually, that's not the right way to do things.
No, so I only asked because I saw at Dominus that you were still taking sales calls. Now I understand that
Yeah,
that's because it's your kind of zone of genius, and that's where you think the highest leverage activity in the business, and that's where you should be focusing on, right?
yeah. I mean, for that company specifically, there's a couple reasons. One, we were in that company, we're going for quality over quantity. That's actually my holding company for all the other companies that I own, and it's kind of like a lead gen trap for me, in kind of a certain way. Where yes, we're doing marketing services for people and becoming growth partners with people, so we're charging pretty significant retainers and then high percentages on like the how much we and how much revenue we increase in their business. So there's that side of to it, that I need to make sure that it's a business that we can actually scale so that we can make the amount of money that we want to off of each client. But at the same time, for me, it's kind of like a lead generation process to see which businesses that we enjoy scaling, which ones we work with well, which ones we're able to scale well. And then that's like a green light for me to like, okay, this is a business that maybe I'd want to buy a piece of, that I'd want to be a part of, see if they'd sell me some equity to it, et cetera. And so that's why it's a little bit of a different process, right? Like we're looking for much higher quality and lower quantity. Like our pods only have like 8 or so clients into it. The 8 or so clients in it, like my companies are inside my pods. So the quality of like the talent inside of it is very significant. Like it's just a different, it's a more of a passion business, that I'm building, that's going to be around for 3 to 5 years. Whereas Cara, other businesses like that, those ones will be sold either shortly or in the near future, like within the next 1 year or so. So that's kind of the reasoning for that. Doesn't mean that I'll do it forever. It just means that it needs to be someone, if someone's taking it over from me, it needs to be someone that has the same attention to detail, um, and that understands marketing and understands how to scale businesses and all that type of stuff. And obviously, that doesn't come cheap, and that can't be just like a commission closer, because we don't want to close everyone. We don't want everyone. We want to disqualify 99% of the people type thing. So it's just a kind of a different process. Um, Whereas maybe for a different business it was a little bit more scrappy, I'd hire a closer immediately, have a commission closer immediately, turn on lead gen, and just be the sales manager of that person, help build out their framework, and then eventually replace myself as the sales manager as quickly as I could, unless the company could afford a sales manager, then do that immediately. But yeah, I'm much more in the mindset nowadays of like not doing the things that I don't think are either the highest leverage or things that I don't want to do, if that makes sense.
So with Dominus, one of the other things I noticed is that branding and positioning seem to be super important. Is that correct? And if so, kind of why are you putting such a big focus on that?
A couple things. One, the industry that we're in, like the growth partnership industry, can be pretty scrappy. And we wanted to kind of set ourselves apart of like being professional, being like sophisticated, being prestigious. So we go a lot more for like kind of like the old money vibes of like more in kind of like the professional direction. One, I think it just sets us apart when everyone else is doing one thing and then we're kind of in our a league of our own. And then it kind of just sets the precedent too for the type of work we do, that we're not doing scrappy work. It's professional, it's well done. You're working with the best of the best. You're not just working with some marketing agency that has 25 clients in a pod or something like that, where they have one project manager that works with 100 different people. Like we want it to seem a lot more exclusive and a lot more kind of like a designer type effect to it. So that's kind of the idea of why we positioned ourselves that way, and kind of in that with that feel to it, because those are even the types of clients that we want to attract. We don't want to attract the scammy clients or the clients that aren't actually providing value to their audience. So like if you look at like our about us and everything, like it shows our values, it shows our mission, it shows our vision, it shows the charities we support, it shows our team, their level of expertise, everything, because that's what we want. Those are the type of clients that we want to bring in and attract. And you are what you attract. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the idea behind all of it.
Okay, so I want to talk now about kind of expanding beyond the initial business. So I feel like we've spoken a few times over the years. You've acquired, I believe, an Amazon agency. You looked at an email marketing company. You obviously got Dominus now. You do some agency coaching as well. You've got a lot going on. How did that evolve over time?
Yeah, so those were actually part of my distracted years. So that's why I'm slowly trying to uh, shave off the chaff a little bit, because I found myself working more than I wanted to and getting distracted from what my ultimate mission was. But I built Dominus off of the team that scaled my businesses, right? And the goal was always to replace myself. But I figured instead of doing consulting, because I did a lot of consulting for a while, I had like a 25 to 35K program that I would do with people. But it was all my time. It was one-on-one calls, all those types of things. And I was like, well, I'm working too much. I'm distracted from what I want to do. Sure, it's good money, but it's not where I want to go and what I want to do. Which I could have easily scaled that, but it's not my mission. It's not my personal core values, all that kind of stuff. So that's when I pivoted into like, okay, well, let me take this team that's already doing it for my businesses and let's do it for other businesses instead. That way I'm not the one doing it. It's not dependent on me. So that's how kind of Dominus was formed. And it was formed and we started like servicing clients in around like January of this year. And that's my main goal. Eventually we'll build out the sales side of it as well, where it'll do sales management and consulting. So then we're handling everything on the front end. Maybe in the future we'll do, operations consulting and fractional operations or something like that. But as of now, we're just planning on solving front end issues. And so then every company that I buy a piece of or own part of or partner with or whatever it might be, I don't have to do anything because I have the team built out to be able to do it. And so then my main focus is Dominus, and it trickles, and that focus, that energy trickles down to the rest of my businesses, and has an impact in that way, rather than me needing to be inside of every single one of those companies actively doing things. My the in I'm building this engine that's able to drive the rest of those. And so that's kind of how it changed. Is I realized very quickly, as I'm acquiring all these different businesses, it's requiring things from me. As I'm starting these different businesses, it's requiring my time, it's requiring my energy, and I'm like, I don't actually want to do this. Sure, it's great that now I have like four different businesses, but it's not the direction that I want to go in. It's not how I want to live. It's not the way that I want to do life. I don't want to work 17 hours a day. I want to work 4 to 5. You know what I mean? So if I spend those 4 to 5, 4 to 6 hours heavily focused on Dominus, on that team, on the values of that company, on the mission, on the vision, on the culture, on the talent that we have, the training, all that kind of stuff, I know that all that will trickle down to my other businesses. And we started doing that last year, opened it up to the public in January, and it's freed up my time significantly and even done better work for those businesses, because instead of me spreading myself so thin, each business is getting its own dedicated me type thing.
Interesting. So am I correct in saying that Dominus is kind of the main company, and you want to partner with other businesses, over time, maybe take an equity stake, revenue share, whatever, and you kind of, grow those, then exit, and then kind of rinse and repeat. Is that the roadmap?
Yeah, exactly. Just a lot more minority than I have in the past. One of the things that I've found is that, if I own 50%, 40% or whatever of a company, like if there's fires, if there's issues, if there's things that happen, it's like, Zach, what do we do? Whereas if I own, 10%, 15, 20, 30% of a company, it's like, guys, there's a fire. What are you guys going to do to fix this? You guys own this company. You know what I mean? Where there's much less dependent on me. And if they're coming to me and they're like, hey, what the heck do we do? It's like, I just do lead gen. That's working fine. I don't own enough of this company to be able to make big enough decisions. You know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, obviously I wouldn't actually say that, but it's like, that's the sentiment behind it, of not owning the same significant amount as, like, it's like, what do you mean? You're half owner. You need to make the decisions and help me figure this out.
Okay. And then you kind of personally always stay in your zone of genius, focusing on sales, lead gen, culture, maybe some branding and some other bits as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of diversifying that portfolio, how wide will you go?
What the team likes to do and which ones we have success with, right? So this year we've been in the test of just like testing a bunch of different niches. Like, is it agencies? Is it financial services? Is it info products? Is it coaching? Like, we've tested tons of different niches this year. And it's just about like finding the ones that we enjoy working with and that we get the best results for. And for me, if we're able to scale up a company super well, like that's the one. That's the one that I want to be with. Pretty straightforward, based on data more than like sentiment. And a lot of these businesses are boring. You know what I mean? They're just like boring things. And I'm just like, well, boring makes money sometimes. So who cares if I like it or not?
And are there certain things that you'll look for in a business that you want to work with? Obviously industry, but other variables aside from that?
Yeah, the founders, what their goals are, what their values are. Same thing with the company, what the company's goals are, what the company's values are, what their mission, vision, what the talent looks like, the sentiment and the culture inside there, how their clients feel about the actual service and how it's done. I think those are the most important things, because the service can always be improved, of course, but if the founders don't have, good values, good mission, good vision, if the culture inside the company, it doesn't feel like there's that kind of good vision, good mission, and good core values inside that company, like that's a lot harder to fix and a lot harder to scale, and a lot harder to align with someone on. And I've made that mistake in the past with other companies where it was just like a juicy deal on paper, but then once you actually start talking to the people, it's like, oh, okay, I didn't know. Oh, wow. And then it's just like things that can't be fixed, and it's kind of too late. So for me, those things are incredibly important, because that's like one of my core values and one of Dominus's core values, is that it's people first, no matter what, always. And then one of our core values is also purpose over profit. So it's like, if those two things don't align with the companies, then it's like, it's not interested in more. I'm not interested in going in that direction. Like, it's not worth it. It's too much work. I don't want to work with people that I don't necessarily align with, have the same values. So those are I'd say probably the biggest things, is like, what are their goals? What are their strategic goals? What is their mission? What is their vision? And what are their core values? And then, talent, different things like that, those things can be fixed. Lead gen can be fixed, sales can be fixed. But if like the foundation of a company is broken, then it's like, sorry, it's too late.
Okay. And are there certain financial metrics or profiles that you'll overlay on top of that? Maybe it's we take businesses from 1 mil to 10 mil and then exit, or what does that look like?
Case by case, yeah. I mean, obviously, since I'd be taking minority in most of them, or that's like what the plan is instead of taking the majority. It's dependent on the founder, right? So like, there's an agency that I bought half of in January, and the founder just wanted to scale and exit. I'm like, great, let's do that. Let's do it nice and quick, right? Whereas some people are like, hey, this is my legacy business. I want to do this forever. Let's scale this. I'm like, that's fine too. You know what I mean? So it doesn't necessarily I'm not necessarily like looking for quick exits or looking for companies that last forever. It's more based on them because in the end, I'm just trying to help them get to their goal. And so if that's their goal and I feel like it's okay and I align with it and it's a good goal to have, then let's do it. Doesn't really matter if it's like we want to sell in 6 months or we want to stick around for 16 years.
Okay. And when you're talking these more long-term partnerships with people, what does the structure look like? Is that, equity? Is that profit share? Are you still taking your agency fee? Can you just talk to that?
Yeah, it depends on the deal. So if I mean, obviously, if I'm doing a function inside the business, then I get a salary. For lots of them, obviously, I don't want to have that because I don't want to have a position inside the company. Dominus always gets paid because they do the lead generation. Depending on what the deal is, it could be the actual just the cost of our service with no profit on top of it, or it could be what our normal retainers are, depending on what kind of deal it is. And then the distributions, of course.
Okay. This is obviously, a big thing to ask someone and to kind of, I guess, vet their business on day one. Is there a process before that then? Do you date before you marry?
Yeah, so that's the idea of Dominus. The Dominus is the lead generation. So we're bringing these people in. We're working with them for 6 months to a year. If we have a good relationship with them, if we're scaling them well, if the numbers look good, if everything's doing well, it's like, "Hey guys, we've scaled you to X amount of dollars. We've been working together now for 6 months. Like I'd really like to start talking about maybe having a piece in the company." Right? So absolutely. It's not like I'm not taking people outside of our ecosystem. I'm not it's people that have gone through our systems that we've been able to scale, that we're seeing the right numbers with, that we have a good relationship with, that it stick with us for 6 months to a year. Like the stars kind of have to align.
Okay. My final question then, as we kind of, start to round this off, is I think now you're starting to reach that maybe goal day where you have, a lot of your personal vision and kind of values and mission
Yeah.
aligning with, your business. Is that the case? And if so, what does your kind of perfect day look like?
Yeah, I mean, getting there closer and closer, there's still things that I'm building to be able to get rid of that type of stuff, right? Like as I mentioned, like the sales side of Dominus isn't built out yet. And so we're either gonna start building that ourselves from zero or merge with someone that already has kind of like a sales management agency of sorts or a sales consulting agency. Um, and so that's next step to be able to kind of take all sales things from my companies off my plate and from our clients as well. So every day there's things like that I think that's one of the things that drives me forward. And I say it in kind of like a facetious way, but like laziness motivates me a lot because like my goal is to do nothing. So every day, and my wife always tells me like there's no way you're lazy. You work every day. It's like, yeah, but my motivation is to do nothing. So every day I'm working towards doing less, if that makes sense. And I don't know if there'll ever be a day where I'm not doing anything. She doesn't believe there is. But yeah, I mean, an ideal day for me is, yeah, like I said, like working that 4 to 6 hours a day type thing, taking long trips. Like we just traveled all of August and we just came back, not have to worry about things. Everything's going smoothly. I'm in the UK right now, which is beautiful because the majority of my companies are in like EST time zone. So the full mornings, my wife and I just have free to, go play tennis or go to brunch or breakfast somewhere, walk around the city, just hang out, start working at like 2 p.m., get off at like 7 or 8 type thing. For me, that's all I want it to be. And then just to once I'm able to get more of this sales stuff off my plate, then just for my wife and I to be able to dive into kind of starting our own nonprofit, our own charity. And then for me, that's not work. That I'm happy to do for as long as is necessary to get it off the ground and to make it happen. So like ideal for me, like if we're talking like 5 years from now, is like business 2 to 3 days of the week, 5 days of the week nonprofit, and then that's where I'm at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it certainly doesn't look like you're slowing down in terms of output, but maybe shifting the focus from kind of business and money and more to, personal fulfillment and faith and that kind of other stuff, right?
Yeah. In a way, leveraging a lot more for sure.
Perfect. Well, look, Zach, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all this kind of value with everyone. I know we spoke a lot today about Dominus. You also have other businesses. Where can people find out more? What type of businesses do
Yeah.
you work with, and where should they reach out to you?
Sure. So just Instagram is probably best. Just send me a message and we can chat. I don't have any setters or anything, so just send me a message and I'm happy to chat about it. And get on a call with you and see if it's a good fit. But pretty much anything high ticket. So it can be B2C, B2B. You could be an agency. You can be, a financial service. You can do, I don't know. You can sell fitness programs, coach people on how to do budgeting with their personal finance. Doesn't really matter, anyone that kind of sells something that's more expensive than like 2000 or so. Um, and so that's kind of the businesses that we're looking to partner with and looking to work with. And then yeah, just on my Instagram, just send me a message. My handle is Hey Zach Schubert, so it's HEY, and then my name Zach Schubert. And then just send me a message. I'd love to chat.
Perfect. Zach, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Scaling an ecom brand is hard. That's why we're on a mission to share as much info as we can to help make it easy. From weekly interviews with the biggest names in the space, to case studies, brand breakdowns, and tips and tricks, and much, much more. Subscribe so you don't miss out.